To locate Newsela, we're going to go to our Clever platform. And you can see here, I already have it saved in my favorites, but it's actually located with the ELA content right here. Now, social studies teachers, science teachers, even math teachers, don't let that discourage you. We know that we read and write across the curriculum, and as a result, Newsela is a perfect resource for us to tap into. So we're going to select Newsela, and as you can see, we come to this home page. Because of single sign-on functioning, we're automatically at this account. Now, as I mentioned, ours is the free version, but still you'll find that there's a rich library. Upon this landing page, you'll see there's a search option, news that you can look to, any content that you may have curated over time, whether it was created by you, whether it was saved by you from an existing lesson, whether it was shared. There's also the capacity to create text sets. We know that with the State Department of Education social studies test, typically students read multiple passages before they have to decide on a claim and develop a position to defend that claim citing evidence. So we can give them that practice with Newsela by building a text set and then identifying a specific writing task. And we'll see that in just a moment. We can have a list of all of our assignments, any binders that we build. We can look at activity feeds. There's also an educator center where you can get resources, identify webinars for extended training, which can be very informative. So let's go ahead and start looking for our text set. So I've already decided that we want to look for a River Valley civilization. This is one of the earlier lessons that are taught in 6th grade world history. So we are lined up with the State Department of Education's content. We can see from the Newsela library that there are a number of options. Like anything, teachers, our most important work is our planning. So I've already gone through these and I've selected the lesson that I think best fits what we want to tap into today. And that is this article on the early civilization in the Indus Valley. So I've decided on this lesson, and you can see from selecting it, it is a world history lesson. We have our title. We could present this in the front of the classroom if we chose. We could save it, come back to it later. Students have the option, it'll read aloud. We can share it to our Google Classroom, to Remind, to email, to Facebook, Twitter. We can also print this. And as I mentioned previously, we can add a text set. What we're going to do is go ahead and assign this lesson. When you look here, we see the Lexile level, and it's at basically at 1060. So that's around 12th grade. We see that there is a writing activity. This prompt is going to ask them to compare. We have the option as teachers to edit this prompt and change it based on where the flow of instruction has been going in the class, what specific aspects of the civilizations we're looking at this point, or even based on how our students write and what we know their strengths need to be. We can adjust it to differentiate for our student needs, which is critically important. There is also a quiz. It consists of 4 questions. As a teacher, we get to see the correct answers. Students won't see this. They'll have their feedback once they have submitted this assignment. So let's go ahead and assign this lesson and see what our next steps need to be. So we can see here we have a title. We can select a class or we can create a class. There is the text level. We just talked about that Lexile level. And there is the Newsela recommended, or we could adjust the level. And so The original level here is, as I pointed out, at about 12th grade. But we know that ancient oral history is taught in 6th grade. So what I am going to do for the purposes of this lesson and to show you is to adjust this to a 6th grade lexile level. I'm going to lock that selection in, and you see this changes so that it automatically is now set at a 6th grade lexile level. I'm going to choose a class. You can see I have some older classes in here from my Google classes. So I'm just going to assign one because it is a Google class. I can give instructions. So I might say to students that I want them to identify in purple words they don't understand, highlight in yellow evidence that could support their claim. So there is an annotation feature within the context of Newsela, and we're going to look at how it works by providing the instructions for our students. Let's do that now. So I want them to highlight in yellow keywords, highlight in purple interesting facts, highlight in green potential evidence for your claim, and I want them to highlight in red any confusing information. It's interesting because also here in the instructions, if I wanted to, I could say add a video that I wanted students to watch based on the Indus Valley. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment as we continue. So I've gone to YouTube and I've done some filtering looking for a video. I recommend that videos are never longer than 5 minutes. In fact, if you can keep it between 3 to 5 minutes, it's probably best. So I found one that I want to use in addition to my Newsela lesson. So now I'm going to combine some video to give them some initial information before they do a dive into their reading. I just select the link for this video, can copy it. I can come right here and tell them to watch this video, watch the video, before you read. And right here, I can drop that video link, and it is now a part of this particular lesson. This is particularly impactful because now we're combining the visual of a video prior to text, which can be very helpful for students because we're talking about ancient world history and their context, their images, they may not be able to connect. And we know one of the biggest things our students complain about is why do they have to know this? So why not make it interesting for them and include video? Newsela allows us to include video in addition to text to support. So now we're connecting a relevant concept with what is going to be a rigorous activity. So now that we have embedded this, we've given them the instructions, we can go ahead and assign this. Once I have it assigned, I want to open it because I want to show you now. You can see our title, we see our Lexile level, we see the instructions that we have provided for students. We see the link to the video, and we see what is going to be some interesting information. Once this has been shared, placed in that Google Classroom, you're going to get to see the students that have actually viewed the article. What was the amount of time they spent on the article? The interaction with the quiz activity, as well as their annotations. So let's go to the article right now. So now we're in our article. What's really great, Newsela articles always give an image and they give a description of a photo, give some information about when the article was published, who it's recommended for, and you can see here, this is the text level that I assigned, not the original text level. So we can go through this article, and these are annotation markings. So students can input annotations, and I can say these are places that are important. Whatever the note, the student has the option to be able to include it so that now they can come back to and remember as they've read what they have put in. We know that annotating text is extremely important to helping students extract valuable insight and information, as well as noting potential evidence that will serve the purpose of supporting their claim. As teachers, we can then go back and look at that evidence and make the decision in terms of a quiz question or specific details within the writing as to whether or not students really had an understanding or if we need to engage in some reteaching opportunities. So annotations aren't just important for students, they're important for us as well because we learn where their thinking may have misaligned to our instruction or to text that we have provided. So that itself is a valuable piece of data that can inform any changes that we may need to make. So as students would then go throughout the activity, they would continue to annotate, so I might write here, why did trade disappear? Again, it's there for me as the student, but it's also there as the teacher. Now, an interesting and important fact, we're talking about annotating. and how important annotating is to writing. We can edit the writing prompt. And we can ask students as one of the 4 river valleys. Is the Indus more important than the others? And then if so, why? So I've just changed the writing prompt and I've asked them to adjust from what was there initially. So I've now made this specific and unique to what I'm doing with students. Perhaps maybe we're on a different path than what was actually there. So just one more time, because that's a really awesome feature. We can edit this. We delete it. One of the 4 river valleys. Is the Indus more or less important? Explain. So now we want to say this. We want this to be their writing prompt. And it says, so once we now have signed this, we can go in again and look at this lesson. And now our writing prompt is quickly changed. We had previously assigned it. So that's an excellent feature, and it gives you as an instructor complete control over how students are learning. So we've seen how we can change the Lexile level. We've seen how we can select and include specific supporting information like a video within the context of the lesson, and how we can share our lesson out. As we conclude, we want to know, how does Newsela inform our instruction by giving us results? And we'll take a look at that just so. We have actually identified a lesson that aligns with current standards as well as content that is often taught within the 6th grade world history class. We have embedded the ability to view video, and we've also given specific details about annotating for our students. We've even edited the writing task to make it specific to what we want our students to be able to do as we are teaching this particular content. What is another important feature? As students complete this lesson, as they are either at home, as a part of homework, if they're doing it as a segment within the context of your class, if they're working in teams or groups, one of the nice things you get to see once you select on students, again, we go from articles, because this was the article that we had, we select students, and you can see for each student, how many times did they view the article? What was the total time they spent reading? So when a student says, I didn't understand, but they've only spent 6 minutes reading, perhaps the initial recommendation could be to please reread, and this time ensure that you're annotating your text properly. We can see the median article level. We can also see the article quiz activity as well as the writing activity, and we can see how many annotations the students made. So as they go through, we can actually keep track of how much time they have invested in this, how much they've actually interacted with the text, which is what we want them to do, to play at and play with the text in terms of annotating it so that they're extracting meaning to construct new knowledge. So we look at this and we get very important specific data for our students. So I hope you see that Newsela can provide a rich opportunity to teach within the context of class. If we wanted to look at the election of 2020, there's lots of information. So dealing with current events, again, it's not afraid to deal with controversial topics. I'll share one that was actually created by me for the purposes of a Newsela training. It was a text set that I put together, Back to the Future, the ongoing civil rights movement, and I pulled a number of specific articles from things that were happening in the current context of society. We'll look at a later time as we continue to explore Newsela, how you can build a rich text set to engage students. So I hope you see that this is a fascinating tool that puts a lot of power in your hands, as well as the potential to engage students, to ensure that they are constantly participating in the inquiry cycle when it comes to the social studies shifts, and more importantly, that they're making connections to what is relevant, and that's building that component that nationally is being looked at as civic engagement. How else can we expect them to be our future if we aren't preparing them with the most relevant and ongoing context that we possibly can? Newsela is a wonderful tool to pattern with the DBQ Online project, as well as the state scope and sequence for your social studies grade level. So this is just another tool. It doesn't replace, it doesn't supersede. It gives you something else to put in your toolkit to empower your learners. I want to thank you today for taking time to even view this particular presentation. I know that there are so many others you could select from, and we want to provide our best for you. And doing so, we want your feedback because, like you, we want to be made better. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to serve you. It truly is a pleasure to serve the East Baton Rouge Parish District, as well as the social studies content area, as it is my area of expertise. And if you would consider this quote, I know it may be a little bit strange, but it really does make a lot of sense. Statistics are kind of like bikinis. What they reveal is suggestive, but what they conceal is vital. We have to make sure that as teachers, we are using data to inform how we drive instruction. And we cannot do that with merely one tool. We've got to vary, differentiate, and expand. And sometimes that means embarking in territory that may be a little uncomfortable for us. Thank you once again. I hope you've enjoyed this training and look forward to the next in the series on Newsela and how it can impact the rigor and the relevance of your content area.